Okay, here we are for the first Momentum System 2024 cohort meeting. And we're going to get started in just a minute, but we're going to wait a minute or two and see who else comes today. Um, and in case anybody's not here, we just had a conversation about this AI note taker, which is here with us. And it's Jessica, it's Jess's. Jessica. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is going to be a little thing.
Yeah, so literally, I will go by Jessica,
Me
Jess,
too.
Jesse,
So
whatever you, however you need to make
yeah,
this
no.
easy. Yeah.
When we're in the room together, I think it'll be more clear. But anyway, Jessica's note taker, and she's going to post the link to the notes in the recording so that everybody has access to a transcript, which is nice. I can make transcripts, but I don't do it by default. So if anybody needs that, just let me know. But looks like we're going to have that covered. All right. How's everybody doing today? Let's give it a minute and see if we get more of our cohort here.
I am ready to dive in. That's how
Okay,
I'm doing today.
cool. Okay, very nice. Um, there we go. Here's one more person. So we are a cohort of seven, let's say 7.5, because Annette Tomei, who's the person she's been in my world a long time, and she runs the Sunday accountability sessions. She will be joining off and on. Her schedule doesn't let her do it right now, but when the semester ends, she may be joining us in calls. But you'll meet her if you go to the Sunday meetings. So, get to know her there. Hey, Jennifer, welcome. Okay, so let's just get started here. My plan for today is for us to I'm just going to go through all of the elements of the program, what's available to you, how to think about it, and just get sort of orientation and welcome. If you have any questions right at the outset, please feel free. But I know that a couple of you are already on my schedule for the road mapping calls. And so that may be, more like the moment to go deep and what am I, how do I want to form this for myself and so on. Um, but feel free to raise your hand at any time and just ask whatever you need to ask about what's going on. But let's just start by introducing ourselves real quick, go around um, and say our name, where we're at, and where we physically are, rather, and what more or less do you want to be focusing on during this 4 months? And, there's sort of two main modes people are in. One is I want to finish something really big. I have big plans. I need help to, either finish it or really get it off the ground. Cool. Or I want to be developing better, more sustainable work practices in general and just want help kind of smoothing out what my work looks like. Either or both is fine. There's no best way to do this, but I'd love to know, like, where are you at with this? Um, all right, so I'm going to go clockwise, starting with Jessica. Why don't you start there?
Okay, I'm Jessica Mehring, and you can call me Jess if it makes it easier to differentiate me from our illustrious leader here. I'm located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and let's see, focus. Focus. My focus for our time together is I have two things that I would like to accomplish. So the first one is to choose my next book project, something that excites me, that will sustain me through, the whole process of writing my next book. I have several novels and nonfiction books out in the world, and I paused my writing while I was in graduate school. I graduated in May with a master's degree in communication, and I really thought I would just be able to choose my next book project and dive right back in, and that has not happened. I cannot seem to pick a project that really sustains me. So that's one of my main focuses here. And the other is my consulting firm is operating more without me now, and I am building a personal brand for the first time in like 8 years. So I'm going to be working on that while I'm in here, and really trying to hone kind of my beta offer for writing coaching for founders, executives, business leaders. Yeah, and hopefully like really get something solid out of our time together here.
Awesome. Love it. Cool. Okay. All right, Garima.
Hi, I'm Garima Lal, and I live in Ithaca, New York, home to Cornell University, where my husband works. Um, I am, as you must have seen in my intro, I'm a multi-passionate, like Jessica. uh, Connect very well with you, Jessica. Jess, I guess Jess. So, my background is in business. And I have been working in the business world, it feels like forever in last 20 years. I was a food and beverage analyst, and so what I gained from there, and I moved into the health space for personal reasons. I used to get debilitating migraines, and a family member went through 3 heart surgeries to fix a congenital issue. So I really wanted to understand health. So I became a health coach, um, life coach. I'm still working on that, and sort of like mindset coach. And so, all this juggling 2 kids. Now they're grown up, and we are empty nesters now. So I started a food blog back in 2017 after being in so many hospitals. And it was just an outlet to sort of like let my, what's happening in the world and how can we eat healthy. There was no particular goal at that time. And then I also did a specialization in women's hormones and gut health, because some friends started telling me that, you can actually coach us. And I thought I just wanted to understand that space better. So I started coaching women over 40 going through perimenopause and menopause, and saw a bit of success. Like I had fewer clients, but then COVID came, and then I think everything kind of like, I did still have, I still had clients, but I had a personal tragedy. I lost my dad to COVID. So I kind of like dropped everything. After that, except my job, which is I'm a CFO at a startup. So now my thing is like, should I just keep doing my blog, which is I still don't have a focus there, except that it's plant-based recipes, but or should I start a different brand in my name for coaching, for life coaching mixed with hormone coaching for women over 40? And should I just stay with women 40 over 40, or should I just? But at this point, I'm just kind of like leaning toward that, creating a brand where supporting women over 40 in mindset and health. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some,
Yeah,
converging somewhere.
sounds very
So
promising.
yeah,
There's a lot there for sure.
thank you for listening.
Yeah,
I
of
think.
course. Okay. Jennifer.
All right. Hi everyone. I've just been on a long Zoom call, so I'm a little zoomed out. I'm just gonna put that out there. Um, I am at a point in my career that actually feels kind of exciting because it's very dynamic. It feels like a moment of a lot of change, a lot of expansion. Like it's very fun, it's a little scary. Um, and to make a a story that feels much longer, shorter for the moment. I just, as I am kind of experimenting with what the constellation of my effortful, life looks like, I really want to include space to bring forth the things that matter to me and not just be responding to the needs of the people that I'm working with and external things. And I've just found that really challenging in the past for a lot of the reasons, Jessica, that you've talked about when I've heard you talk about these things. And so I'm hoping that in these 4 months, I can learn to build a constellation that includes space for what matters to me, as well as space for the things that I'm making money on, which right now aren't the same things. And I don't need my creative life to make me money. But I do want it to be part of my world in a more consistent way. And I guess one last piece of that is that I just have a habit of not putting things out in the world or not finishing them necessarily. And so a way that I'm working that isn't working for how I want to be at this stage of my life. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm here.
Okay, great. And where are you?
Oh, sorry, I'm in Burlington, Vermont.
Burlington. Okay,
Mhm.
great. Cool. Elizabeth, do you want to go next?
Unmute here. Hi, I used to live in Vermont and in the States, but I live in Denmark now, in Copenhagen. And I'm here because my focus is to get focused. I don't know, my attention span it's both a benefit for me because I'm highly creative and I've worked as a concept developer and researcher and teacher, and I can facilitate lots of people's ideas and come up with great synthesis. I've written, I don't know, 80, 90 articles and books and publications, and I've illustrated, um, worked as a professional illustrator and designer and art therapist. But at this juncture, so much has happened, and I think other people recognize this, but COVID slammed into my life. 5 people in my nearest family uh, had dementia. 3 of them have since died.
Mm.
My husband has now severe dementia, and he has Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, lives in a nursing home, and my sister has Alzheimer's. And so I'm constantly, just not to go so deeply into it, but since COVID, there's just been this a lack of capacity in me to perform in the way that I sort of took for granted. I was able to, PhD and, run around and do 10 things, and I could juggle them fairly well. It was not ever my strong suit. As I said, it was also my, it's both a strength and a weakness, but I managed. And now I don't know. I've also just been through 3 operations for arthritis. I think partially because my immune system sort of bottomed out. And now I just want to be an artist and writer. That's where I started. That's what I want to do. Um, and I just really need some guidance. And it's weird being a person who's been on the other side. I can hear other people here have been coaches and what and are accomplished in their field. But one thing is to provide that for others, but to do it for yourself, it's just really tricky. I see you nodding your heads, and people don't really understand how much I struggle with it. Because I almost think it's shameful. I really struggle with it. And the inner critic is very loud. So, but other things are going well. It's not like it's a tragedy. There's lots of learning out of difficult times in life. So, yeah. And I also have so that's the general thing. And the other thing about focus and attention. And the other reason I'm here is that I do have a book project that's been bothering me for an incredibly long time. And now it's like knocking on my door, and it's time to do it, or else, let it go. So I hope you can help me figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell more about that later.
One or the other, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's right.
That's
And
always an option, right? So.
it is an option. And I think it's important to embrace that, because it means that you have you can decide what you do with your capacity. It doesn't have to be taken by something that pre-existed in some sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for all that. That's really, yeah. I mean, we've all gone through it, and it sounds like you've gone through it as much as, anyone I know. So making those transitions to new phases, it sounds like almost everybody is in that point where it's like something happened, it ended, or it's starting, and now there's a new phase. That's kind of where everybody seems to be, which is interesting. Ree, how about you?
Hi, I'm Ree. I'm in Berkeley, California. It was great to hear all of you. I love going last. So I've been a visual artist in many media, and lately with an interest in performance. And I also had a big rupture in my life 3 years ago, and it kind of put everything that I thought I was doing into suspension. And in that period, I became a craniosacral therapist, which is work I find really beautiful. And I'm also not sure that's what I'm supposed to be doing as my day job. And I've had businesses, and I'm wondering about starting a business that involves some creative practice, or even possibly taking one of my deep creative passions and figure out how to really apply myself again to that and make money at it. That's where I am. A lot of not knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all are going through it and go through it. I mean, honestly, I'm also in a position of, transition and thinking like, what's my next phase? So, I'll certainly be reflecting on all of that while we're working together. All right. Well, thanks for sharing all that. That was, it's really great to hear it in your own words. I know everybody's posting introductions and I'm getting your onboarding forms and all the stuff, but different ways of coming at the same question. And I think that's really useful. All right, so let's just go through, the housekeeping stuff. And again, any questions, please let me know. I assume everybody's getting our email, and it has whitelisted our address, autonomous-creative@e.kajabimail.net. Let me put that in the, we have 2 email addresses. This is where our mass mail comes from. And then our direct mail from Ree, who's same name, different spelling as Ree here. Rhiannon is my assistant. So you may hear from Ree various times if you have any, administrative things you need doing. It's her address is rhi@jessicaable.com. And so you may hear from her as well. All right, so let's talk about the CFW course and the ACC and the sort of way those things fit together, just to make sure everybody's, clear on all of that. So the Creative Focus Workshop is, and let me just share screen here, is the actual course materials. And you all have access to this. If you don't, make sure you let me know. But this is where you can find all of the modules and, all of that kind of stuff. This is where we have, if you want to find lesson briefs and you can't find the button or whatever, it's here. And then the ACC is the community part of what we do. And you can get back and forth with that. There's a tab here and so on. So you can go back and forth between these things. The ACC has a structure called circles. And so you will be in the CFW circle, in the Momentum System circle, in the Post for Everyone circle, and the Accountability circle. They overlap. And so if you just are looking at, home or something like that, you'll see home actually is going to get replaced with an actual home page with buttons and things very soon. But anyway, you'll find everything in the main feed, or if you go to Post for Everyone here, you'll get all this main stuff. The Momentum System group is where we're going to have any kind of reminders, any sort of other stuff, if, for example, this afternoon, we're going to post a reminder for next week's meeting, because next week's meeting is an implementation session for Collect. And so I'll go over what that is in a minute, but you'll get a reminder of what it is, what to do, how to prepare, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to get posted here. And so you want to make sure that your notifications are set, that at least from this circle, you're getting your notifications and they're showing up for you. And you can set notifications by going to your profile icon here and going under settings, under settings here. Notifications. That's where your notifications are. And you can make them, I have them all on because, I'm in charge and want to see everything, but you can make them just push notifications, just email, whatever makes sense for you. And then you can set them individually for different circles. So make sure that you're getting Momentum System all messages, and then you'll get all of our updates. Even if you turn off other stuff, leave that on. Is that everybody clear on that part? Okay, good. So For now, all that's in the, oops. Ended up back at the library. All that's in the Momentum System circle is our introductions. And so you can see several people have done introductions here, not everybody. And then there is a post here, which is the Momentum System Orientation and Resources page. I'm going to actually pin that now, so that it's up at the top. Okay, so this will always be up at the top. I will unpin this eventually, but this one I will leave pinned. And so this is where you can find a page that has all of the pieces on it, and you can get access to, this is the calendar, which I hope everybody has. Everybody have the calendar? Google Calendar? Yeah, okay. Finding replays. This is how to find replays. The weekly accountability check-ins, I will go over in a minute. Anyway, they're, all the stuff is here. And if we have more things, we will add more on this page. That's, there'll always be this repository of how everything works. And I will go over these things one at a time rather than just showing them to you in that kind of random way. Yeah, so the circle, the orientation page, and then the course. And so you are absolutely not required to do the Creative Focus Workshop work if you don't want to, or you find it not, meeting your needs in a moment. You don't have to do any of this stuff. If you want to do it, then what I've done is created a structure where I'm trying to help you get through sort of a first pass on the course through the first couple of months of the program. And so we'll have alternating weeks of implementation sessions where the idea is whether or not you've actually finished everything, you can come and get a sense of what's in the module, what can you get out of it, what do you want to try to finish, and so on. And so that's what we're going to do next week for the collect phase. And I do really, especially given what everybody said right now about trying to figure out what's going on and, what you have room for and how can you, reallocate your capacity and so on, highly recommend doing the full collect phase. And in fact, what I'm going to say is getting through the first 5 modules through saying yes and saying no is going to be immensely useful in terms of the kinds of questions that just came up in your introductions. Beyond that, there will be things that are useful now, things that may be useful in the future. I may point you to different things. I'm certainly going to go over them in the implementation sessions, but they may or may not serve you in this particular moment. But these first 5 modules are really like, here's the basics. Here's how we think about making decisions based on your reality. Here's how we think about saying no strategically to things that are not serving you or they're not as important as other things or whatever it is. And then from there, it's implementation. So even from this pre-deciding module and certainly through the ACT phase, it's like, well, how do we get this into your life? How do we get this into your schedule? How do we make sure this happens on a daily basis or a weekly basis? And that's what's happening kind of later on in the course. Any questions about that so far? Yeah.
You said we're alternating weeks, implementation session, and then what's the other week?
Open group coaching call.
Got
So
it.
checking in on projects. I mean, we can do that every week, but there'll be time. I'm going to basically go through everybody who's at the meeting and say, okay, my usual format for this is to say, tell me something that's good that's happened in the last couple of weeks and something that's been a challenge. You can bring specific questions too. Like, I really want to talk about this. Absolutely fine. But if you come and you're like, I don't know what I want to talk about, that's what I'm going to ask you. And that way we can kind of discover what's been going on in a more organic way. So several of you had very specific questions where you're like, should I do this offer? Should I do that offer? How can I design this thing? Bring those for sure. And that's absolutely, permitted and encouraged. And if you want to pre-post questions, like if you can't be there or you're afraid you're gonna be late or whatever, you want me to see it ahead of time, just post it in the circle feed. I will see it and then I'll be prepared to talk about it. But you don't have to pre-post questions. You can just bring them live. So yeah, in here, we've got there's an overview of all of the sessions here under the calendar that's in your actual calendar too, but here you can kind of look at it and say like, okay, so welcome and getting started. Next week's collect, then we have group coaching, then decide, then group coaching, then act, then group coaching, and so on. It leans more towards just group coaching calls after, you know, we finish with the implementation labs, and they'll end November 19th, and then we're gonna have a quarterly planning session December 3rd. We may or may not actually do the quarterly planning, but we'll go through like how to do quarterly planning, like what the process is. And there is a module in the course for quarterly planning at the very end of the course. So we'll be using that. And then we go group coaching pretty much steadily all the way through. And remember, we do have 2 weeks off over the holidays. Okay, any other questions about the course, or like the course group, whatever, how that lays out? Okay. Oh, one other thing in the group is you can use this little icon here to DM me or anybody else in the group. And you can also make group DMs. So if you find somebody else here who you think, whether inside Momentum System, outside Momentum System, this goes to everybody in the whole community, or you can reach out to somebody and say like, hey, I noticed you're working on this. I'm working on something similar. You want to meet up and talk? You can do that. In addition, we actually have under meetups, we have a live room that you can use anytime. You can go, you can't record it, but if you're like, oh, 3 of us want to get together and co-work, and I don't want to deal with like Zoom links or whatever, you can just go here and use this thing. People don't use it often, so it's not, it's not like super used. Anybody who happens to come would be able to see that it's live. So, like potentially somebody else comes and shows up, but it's very unlikely that that would happen. It's just a kind of free channel, like you can just go in and use it. So if you were there at the lesson briefs today, same interface, just without the recording option if you're not a host. While I'm here under meetups, I want to point out, I was going to go to this later, but since I'm right here, I'm just going to do it now. Under meetups, if you're in the main collective, you'll see all the meetups you are invited to. So you can see everything coming up. So you'll see Momentum System stuff. You'll also see stuff that's for the whole community. So you see this is under ACC Posts for Everyone. You can see what group it's in here. Okay. So like tomorrow, I'm doing the Simplified Amplify Roundtable, which is open to the public. It's not just an internal thing, but we post it here too, so you can easily get access to it. And then there are 4 peer-led sessions per week, which you are invited to. If you enjoy co-working and you want to meet other people in the community, this is a fantastic way to do that, and I highly recommend it. The people who are running these are all Focus allies. They're longtime alumni who really know the system, they know the group, they've done the material, and mostly they're just doing their own thing but they like to meet up with people. They enjoy co-working, and so they've set these sessions up. So Michi and Maggie do Open Studio, and this is a co-working session, but they leave mics on so you can chat if you want. They are both visual artists, and so often they're doing like visual stuff, which is easier to like talk at the same time, but it's a nice time to actually meet and talk to other people about what they're up to and what they're doing. The Creativity Co-working is a fairly large group, actually, that's Pomodoros. It's like 2-3 Pomodoros a couple times a week, I believe. And certainly it's on Mondays. And it's all done on Skype, actually. So what you do is you DM Dorothea, and she'll add you to the group. And this has been running for 4 or 5 years now, and it's a great group, really fantastic. And also, any of these things you're interested in, but you may not be able to make it, still RSVP, and you'll get the reminders. You'll know, you're there. If you don't show up after RSVPing, people are not going to be freaked out. Like, it's not weird. It's totally fine. Tidy Tuesday is same Maggie from this one here. And this is more like, it's definitely co-working anything you want to be co-working on, but it's a great time to do like admin stuff where you're like, oh, I hate invoicing, or I don't want to whatever. And you do this session and, like kind of get the stuff done that you are having a hard time getting done. I think she has a hard time getting people to come to this because it's at 9 a.m. Eastern because she's in England. So if you're West Coast, this may be too early for you, but it's a great session. She's a great person. And then this is the one that I would really sort of want to highlight for everybody is the Annette and Shelley's accountability check-in. This is half an hour. It's very quick on Sundays. You don't have to come to this to do the accountability process, but it's just a nice way to like check in live with people and have a moment to do a weekly reflection. And there's like a quick form for weekly reflections. Inside Momentum System, we're going to be sending out weekly reflections to you. You'll get an email with the form and a reminder to do a weekly reflection. Weekly reflection is the process of kind of thinking through, how'd my week go? What happened? What didn't happen? What do I want to do next week? And just having that moment to, the moment of executive function for your week, really thinking things through a little bit. So this is a great group, really, really cool people. And they then post every week in the accountability circle. There's a pinned post here, and people who join, or even if they don't join, you can do this asynchronously, will post their weekly reflection here. And I highly, highly recommend that you do that. It's just a way of, I'll get in there and I can comment on it, and we can, like just have a check-in every week about like where are you at. This is a way to incorporate that rhythm and sustainability of the things you're trying to do into your weeks. Any questions there so far?
Oh, I have a question.
Mhm.
I guess I'm the one with questions today. In terms of the weekly reflection, I saw that you have a form for that, and I'm wondering about, is there a reason to do it in a form because like it can be collated or searched later? I'm a very analog
Definitely.
person at this point.
You do not have to do it in the form. You can do it yourself on in a notebook, whatever you want. A lot of people find the form easier because it's just short and like you can kind of just get in there and do it. And it's set to email it back to you. Like it will send it back to you so that you have a record of what you said and what happened. So like Annette, who's, as I said, is sort of partly in this group and is running that accountability check-in on Sundays. I talked to her the other day, and she's been doing these weekly reflections for like 4 years or something. And she does them in a notebook. She forgot there was a form. And I was like, there's a form, it just makes it easier. So it's, if it's something that you are like, I don't know what to do here, I don't know how to do this, it feels hard, the form is set up to make it easy, but you absolutely don't need to use it. It's not that I'm going to be like checking it off and going like, did you do your form this week? But I will see it if you post it, and that's a way of helping reinforce that process. And so I would recommend that everybody go and at least RSVP for that meeting, because it'll be another way to have a reminder. Although again, as I said, during these 4 months, you will get an emailed reminder on Fridays to do it at some point over the weekend from Friday through Monday. Okay. Did that. Okay, I wanted to just quickly let you know, let me unshare here. The road mapping meetings, what to expect there. I will have your onboarding form, and I'll be able to read and understand sort of what your situation is. We'll talk that through a little bit, set an intention for our 4 months together. And we're also going to work on a contingency plan. So what happens if something goes wildly sideways? What are you going to do then? What is your backup plan? So you can kind of have that, in the back of your head. That's where we're going to go with that. Okay, did that. Milestone calls. So there are 2 milestones that you can do in this process where you would earn additional 30-minute coaching calls with me. And one of them, and so both of those coaching calls would happen like in the early spring, in the winter, early spring, because, this is set up to like take the time of the coaching program. So one of them is to finish your goal, like whatever you said you were going to do, whether it's like stick to a process every week or it's, you know, finish a thing or whatever you said you wanted to do in the road mapping call, that you do that thing by the end of January. And the other one is to set up a project mapping or project tracking format of some kind, either electronic or physical, and use it for 3 months. So those are the 2 milestones. And when you have those, when you do those, you just send an email with, you know, screen grabs or whatever, and we'll set up the call from there. Everybody in the group joined in the bonus section. So there's also bonus calls, and the bonus calls will be, you can take those from January through March. Basically, I want to get through the, you know, implementation part of this, and then from January through March, you can set up that call. So we'll just give you a link, and you can set up a time. You can use it for whatever makes sense for you. All right, did notifications. Okay. All right, I think that we mostly are through everything. The one thing I wanted to talk through is basically what to do for next week, which is what I recommend is that you actually do the modules for the collect phase. Do the intro, which is the, you know, read or listen to the Creative Engine introduction, and read or listen to the daily top 3s and start thinking, start trying daily top 3s. And then the 3 modules in collect, each of which has only 1 lesson in it. And so the total time we're talking about here is probably 90 minutes to do everything. If you keep it short, like if you put a timer on and keep the implementation short, it can be pretty quick. Do you have to do that by next week? No. If that's too much, you know, spread it out. That's fine. But I really recommend that you do all of those things. And then there is an Airtable form, like a little worksheet form. In fact, I think I brought it up to show you, that you can use as kind of a check-in for the implementation meeting next week. So if you finish everything, you would turn this in and say, how do you rate your capacity, A, B, or C? These are like sort of one takeaway from each of the 3 modules, essentially. And this would get turned into me. So, you know, ideal world, you have time to do this, you have the bandwidth to do this, and you get all that stuff prepared. And then next week we are troubleshooting, answering questions about very specific things about capacity usually come up. Sometimes the criteria can be confusing. And so, you know, we can be in there talking about those things. Next week before this meeting, I'll be doing the lesson brief for criteria also. Okay, I think I got through my list here, actually. Yep. I hit everything. Did everybody get the Hello Audio invitations for the audio feeds? Okay, great. You may or may not, I don't know if everybody's a podcast listener. You know, it may not be like a normal thing that you do, but it is a great way to just kind of get a sense of what's going on, even if you don't have time to really dive in. You can just, you know, if you're taking a walk, walking the dog, you know, commuting, whatever, you can listen through. So even if you don't have time to really to engage with a lesson, you can kind of know where we're at by just listening through it. And I'm going to be adding the recordings of deeper dives over the next few weeks as well. Those are not recorded yet. Okay, anybody have any questions, comments? Anybody want to get a first kickoff coaching question in? We have time. Yeah. Elizabeth?
This is on a practical level. I was scrolling around trying to look at the module for the first one under collect capacity, and I couldn't get in. It didn't allow me in. Was I in the wrong place?
It didn't allow you into the lesson?
Yeah, it said I wasn't signed up. I just wondered if anybody else encountered that.
Did anybody else find that? Has anybody else been in the?
Have you tried?
I will get the other on that, Rhiannon,
Okay.
on
Okay.
checking your enrollment. Make a little note
Okay,
here.
thanks. Thanks.
But yeah, it should be, there's no limitations within the course. Everything's open at the same time. So did you get into the course at all, or you couldn't get into Creative Focus?
Yeah. I got into the rest. Yeah.
Really?
Mhm. It was like a Google Doc, a little
Oh,
cartoon
I see what you're saying. The worksheet.
figure.
Okay,
The
yeah. So the
worksheet.
worksheet,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me show you how that works. When you go to the worksheet, it will say, it'll be like, it'll be blank, right? But it says make a copy, and you need to make your own copy, and then you can use it. So I'll show you what that looks like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you saw this, right? You were in here.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the lesson. And then you're like, okay, let me get that worksheet. And you hit this and you
Mhm.
get this
That one.
little
Yeah,
button,
but
make
I
a
got a little.
copy.
Okay.
It will make your own copy, and then you'll see the full worksheet.
Okay. Mine looked a little different, but that's probably the same problem. Yeah. Okay.
Well, if it was something else, send us a screenshot and we'll figure out what it was. But yeah,
Okay.
these are all Google Docs for worksheets. They're more accessible. There are always issues with like Google, not Google, whatever, but I find them more usable than PDFs, and so that's what we've been going with. But if you do have a problem with it, on a technical level, let us know. Okay.
Thanks.
Garima, did you have a question?
So I think I just wanted to summarize it in my head.
Mhm.
Like we're starting and then we're figuring out what we're going to be doing, set our goals basically, and then create a process
Mhm.
based on the program, creative focus, and then add a criteria to it, and then based on what our capacity is, we're going to just basically create a plan to follow for the next 4 months, week by week, right?
Yes. So the Creative Focus Workshop is designed like this, that the first unit is collect,
Mhm.
the first phase of the Creative Engine. So if you listen to or watch the Creative Engine intro,
Right.
you'll understand there's like 4 phases of the Creative Engine. First phase is collect. That's where we figure out where are you at, what's going on with you in your life, what's important to you, where do you want to put your attention? That's the first thing. The second phase is decide, and that's where we pin down what are you going to do now. Doesn't mean forever, like you can change, you can do more things in the future. But decide is both deciding to do things and also deciding not to do things. So that's in there. The end of the decide phase is where we talk about habits and we talk about templates for your week. So habits, what are you going to do daily, weekly, whatever? How do you build those into your life in a way that's sustainable, in a way that, is memorable, that, can become reliable? So like, Jennifer, for example, is struggling to balance work and creative projects. Habit building is going to be a key thing for you. Like, where does that fit? When in your week? How do you guard that time, right? But in other cases, maybe with Lisbeth, it may be more about templates, or maybe it's both, but like templates are about like, what do you do on which days, what time of day, you kind of structure your whole week. And all of that is about making decisions ahead of time about how you want to use your time instead of like in the moment, like, am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? And getting stuck. So that's what that's about. Then we move into the act phase. That obviously, there's some relationship there, right? It's not completely divided because you are deciding how you're going to act. But then the act phase is where we can build out, and again, depends on your situation, what you need, but you can build out project trackers. So something like if you're trying to complete a project, how are you going to visually have check-in points on that? There's task management stuff, what does task management look like for you if it's going to work, like that works for you? And so some people have task management that works and they don't need to do that part. Great, but maybe they need to add a project management piece to that, which is that sort of larger arc. And then also in, let me just make sure I'm going over this properly. So the ACT phase is all about like structuring the process, right? And then the final phase is reflect, and that's when we talk about weekly reflections, quarterly review, quarterly reflections. And that's also where we're talking, there's also a unit in there, which I mentioned this morning in the lesson briefs around inner critic, like
Okay.
self-critical voices. I know everybody struggles with that in various ways and various times, and it may be something that I kind of recommend you check out way before we get there chronologically. It's there to help whenever you need it. And that's the first module in the reflect phase.
Um,
Yeah.
so the accountability calls, that would be every other Tuesday, right?
Right. So let me go over the calendar again. So basically, our personal calendar for the Momentum system is this time of day every week, except for the 2 weeks over the holidays, right?
Right.
So, and it alternates. Sometimes we're doing something more tactical. Sometimes we're just doing open coaching calls where we're just talking about your projects and helping you move through them. And you can see that whole list in the information page that I showed you, which is pinned at the top of the circle. So again, I will show you what that looks like. Right, so this is the info page. And if you look under calendar
Right.
here, there's an overview of all of these calls.
Right. So when I added this calendar to my Google calendar, it didn't have somehow the Zoom link.
It did not
But
have the Zoom link.
no, so I had to actually go to the Momentum system again to find the
Oh yeah, no,
link.
I'm seeing it's not there. I'll get it added in.
Thanks. Yeah.
Um, yeah, the lesson briefs is, and yeah, and the accountability. So we added the Sunday accountability meetings to
Okay.
your calendar. They're not required. It's just a good idea. So
Okay.
if like nothing's required, obviously this is a coaching program, do what you want. But like I just recommend them. And I think putting it on the calendar will make it easier for you to remember that they're there and go if you want to go. Lesson briefs are on as well. So, the lesson briefs also, if you think it's going to be helpful, if you want to come, you should come. It's not like curricularly part of what we're doing here. It's
Got
just
it.
a
Okay.
helpful support. That's not a word. Curricularly, not actually a word.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I would actually love some advice and resources from you folks who have done coaching, because this is the first time I'm really moving into that space. And I am like the epitome of a writer. I like being behind a screen, typing words on a page. That's my comfort zone. It's why I do what I do. But I think at this stage in my life, after 25 years of being a copywriter and many, many books and graduate degree in communication and like all the things that I do, I have such a body of knowledge that I want to share and help other people with their writing using this body of knowledge. But it's like bringing up all my introversion.
Mm.
So anything that would help with like mindset, and just getting out of my own head, I would love to hear from you guys.
I am not a trained coach. I'm just been a teacher forever. And so, sort of transitioned into coaching that way. But I like the book, The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stainer. And he kind of ratchets down the pressure on like, what is it to be a coach? It's kind of like anybody can coach anybody to an extent, in the way that he's talking about it. So I think that might be helpful in terms of making it a little simpler. The other thing I would say is that um, and I think you probably do this, I like to have a little bit of curriculum, like not necessarily stuff for people to study, but like some kind of like here's like a structure for here's what we're going to be doing. Here's what you should expect. Here's what's expected of you. And in some cases, depending on what I'm coaching on, there's literally curriculum, like do this activity, bring the results of that, whatever. I know you're talking about writing coaching, and so, depending on where you land in terms of what level people have coming in, there may be more of that, like, okay, do this activity, like voice finding or like identifying some kind of thing, like do this, and next time we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I find that useful because a lot of times if you just show up cold to a meeting, even with the structure for the meeting, you can end up like therapy, kind of going over the same stuff again and again. You know what I mean? So I like to have personally, I'm on the border between a coach and a consultant, where there's like something I'm trying to structure and impart to people.
It's very helpful. I'm very creative, but I'm also very analytical. I am equal on both sides of the brain, and that really speaks to the need I have for structure. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else want to jump in? Garima, you've done stuff, so yeah.
So I was just gonna say I have experienced both. When I wrote my blog, it was coming from the vast knowledge that I have, and then I just want to put in the main points. But when I started coaching, I realized my clients did not need all that knowledge; they needed results. So what worked was it's just setting up initially what results are they looking for. Because you have limited time and energy to communicate those to get them results. So I think coaching, you are looking how do you set your time and structure is that you have lessons prepared to their needs, rather than you're still deriving from all that knowledge, but to a particular need. So that's what I think the thing is, the outcome basically.
For sure, for sure. And I think if you set up the outcome ahead of time, like here's the outcome we're going for, and people sign up for that, then you're more able to structure some level of, and again, I think minimal curriculum is important, like not make it easy and doable. I mean, you can see me dealing with that today, where I'm like, okay, I want you guys to do these lessons because I know they're going to be useful to you, but I also know you're busy and it's going to be hard for you to fit them in. So here's how I would like you to think about them. Here's the minimum viable level. Listen to them, on audio while you're walking around, and have some thoughts. Like that's it. Like if you do that, you'll be like way ahead of not doing that. And so I'm always trying to like, put things into some container like that, where there's a sense of this is really important, but also you don't need to, it's not your master's thesis. Like I don't have a high bar for what you're doing here. I just need you to have engaged with this material, so we have something to talk about. Too many times I've had coaching clients who come in and I haven't quite scaffolded that enough, and they just haven't done anything, and they're like, I haven't done anything and I feel terrible. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to talk about for an hour? So
yeah, I want to avoid that, the awkward silence, because I will just babble to fill the time, and that's not useful to anybody.
Well, allowing some awkward silence is actually part of coaching. Allowing people to sit there and stew for a minute can really help, where they just like, oh, now I have to think about this thing. And then, yeah, I'm not super great at that, but it is a really good skill to have.
Awesome. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I missed the question, so I was hesitant to respond. Do you want to repeat the question for me quickly so I make sure I'm responding to the right thing?
Sure,
not just making
yeah.
assumptions?
I was just explaining how, after 25 years of being a copywriter and writing books, and I now have a master's in communication, and like all of this body of knowledge that I have, I'm moving into coaching. I'm looking to coach really leaders, founders, owner-operators, executives, even like team managers in their writing. And I'm having like a lot of fear around the coaching, because I'm such an introvert. My zone of happiness is just behind a screen typing away. And I was looking for resources around mindset and just kind of getting out of my head with this coaching thing.
Got it. I'm happy to jump in if
Yeah,
that's okay.
please.
I have a couple of thoughts. One, this is more mindset focused, sort of, but also with real tools. I loved the Playing Big book. Have you read Playing Big by Jessica or
Yeah,
Tara
it's
Moore?
been a long time.
Good one.
Yeah, she's got an online class and she even has a coaching facilitators training, which I've done, which is all of which are great. So that's just one thought. Um, I just wanted to build on this as I was listening to other people talk. I'm thinking about, oh, I'll put it in the chat in just a second. I'm thinking about the difference between training and teaching, consulting, coaching, and mentoring. And I think we kind of tend to conflate those things a lot, and they're not exactly the same things. And so that's a way bigger conversation that we could have now, but I'm just throwing that out there as sort of domains that you might look into to think about, like, what actually am I? What do I want to be? Do I want to be a coach? Do I want to be a consultant? Do I want to be a mentor? And one last thing is just a big part of my coaching training was it was based on motivational interviewing. And I think that might be something to look into as if you're interested. So
I've never
okay.
even heard of that. I'm going to look into it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Great.
guys. That was super helpful.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I'm glad you asked a question because warm-ups, right? We need to get in there and get to know each other a little bit. So yeah, excellent. And also don't forget, you can post questions or comments, observations anytime during the week between sessions too. We can jump into conversation in the ECC. You don't have to hold it all for the end of the week or for Tuesday if you need something sooner. So please feel free to do that as well. All right, I think let's bring this to a close. Thanks everybody for being here. Really great to meet you all and start to get to know what's going on with you. I'm looking forward to this so much. I haven't done a cohort of this group, this type, this session, this type of thing for a couple of years, and I really missed it. So I'm really excited. And I will see you all next week.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Take care.